Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So, somebody asked me recently, how come, unlike other other imams here in America or increasingly in the West, how come I didn't go and do a PhD in, from some Western institution, right, in Islamic Studies. And they were asking because they themselves were wondering if it was something that was worthy of consideration or doing. And I said, well, there's a number of reasons. One, I really haven't had the time. I'm also at a point in my life where taking a vow of poverty to go off and do a PhD, particularly in the American system, just really isn't an option, especially living here in Southern California. And so there's some reasons, but more specifically, yes, I have an issue with the methodology and the approach of Islamic Studies in the West versus studying Islam in the West. That's why I kind of put the title, right? There's a big difference between studying Islam in America and then Islamic Studies, right? The former is, I don't know, studying with your imam or sheikh or whatever at your local masjid, or, like a good friend of mine, Imam Suhaib Webb, who has his online school that you can attend things, right? So that's studying Islam in the West. Alhamdulillah, you can learn many things from that and attain great benefit. The latter, Islamic Studies, meaning the study of Islam and the Muslims, right? Because that's what a lot of it comes down to, is really more like the study of what Muslims think about Islam in Western academic institutions. One of the reasons why I was not attracted to that is, one, you kind of are forced to hold your arm behind your back due to the methodology that they impose upon their approach to the study of religion. And it's not just about Islam. I mean, it's about religion in general. And that is, and if you go check out, there's a great YouTube channel called Blogging Theology. I think the guy's name is Paul, Brother Paul. And he recently had a guest on whose name is Khalil Andani, who is I think he's a graduate of Harvard, PhD from Harvard. And in the beginning of it, I think the talk was like something about the Injil, right? Something about the Gospels. But, Dr. Andani gives a really great description of the problem I'm talking about, which is, one, you're going to be limited to description and not prescription. And that means that you're going to be limited to describing Islam, but you cannot prescribe Islam. And so another way of phrasing that is, you're going to be limited to the study of Islam as a curiosity, but not really as a believer. And so for somebody, that works as an imam, has been Muslim for over 30 years, for me, this would really be, I just simply wouldn't, it's like going into a fight, but being told, well, you can't, you got to tie your left arm behind your back and you can't do this. That just simply isn't appealing to me. So I'm not telling anybody not to go do it. I might warn them. That's sort of a separate thing, or maybe I'll comment on that a little bit. But, just for me personally, that's one reason why I haven't done it, because I don't feel like it would be an environment where I would be able to indulge my Muslimness unapologetically as somebody that believes in Islam in its entirety without question. And so that's just not really the environment that I wanted to be in. There are also some damaging, and this is where I guess I could comment on, that aside. Well, what are some others? I believe there are some philosophies that are prevalent in these institutions, but often go unarticulated, right? Kind of almost like an undiagnosed medical condition. And that is the issues of, say, philosophical naturalism, right? The presumption of naturalism, and more particularly the conflating of, again, what Dr. and Danny called about the difference between methodological naturalism and ontological naturalism, which, these are all super academic terms. What does that mean? So the difference between saying that, we can observe the world around us, and we can come to conclusions that, there's gravity and there's heat and the passage of time and studying molecules and atoms and all that kind of thing, right? And then stopping there, not saying that because of my study of the natural world and I haven't seen God with my own two eyes, therefore I must come to the swift conclusion that not only does God not exist, but this is the only means of understanding anything. And so, the methodological naturalism, while not quite going so far to say that they believe in God, just says, look, this is what we can see, touch, taste, smell, and hear, and we kind of let it go at that. Maybe there are so-called metaphysical or supernatural forces that either brought the world or the universe into existence or has some effect on it, but we don't see necessarily proof for that through that. But however, ontological, right, which becomes kind of an ideology, right? Ontological naturalism says, no. We make those same observations, and then we come to the conclusion that this is the only means of demonstrating what is real and true, what is beautiful, what is of value, and so on. And so that tends to be the kind of unspoken cardinal rule in the Western academic approach to studying religion in general, and as it applies specifically, right, to Islam. And so at basically almost 50 years old, although it isn't just about turning 50, but I think now at almost 50 years old, I work as an imam. My life is all about the prescriptive approach to Islam, right? I believe in it. I teach it. I encourage others to practice it who believe it. I invite others who don't to embrace it. Why would I want to then go and put myself in an environment that would be pretty much kind of hostile to that? And what would be the effect of my iman in doing so, right? If I suddenly started spending all of my time speaking about and articulating my belief in a way that kind of ties my hands behind my back and doesn't want to advocate for that, would there perhaps come a point in my own belief and practice where maybe I don't become quite so faithful and I don't become quite so committed, right? And I'm not naming any names, but when we start to see people that were in the, say, prescriptive study of Islam, overseas, traditional studying, and then came back and were allowed themselves to be inducted and perhaps even indoctrinated into the study of Islamic studies in the West, that includes all those things we just talked about. And now we see them switching up their pitch, and they seem to be confused, and they seem to be changing their stances on a whole number of things. And now they seem to be using Islamic studies as the bar to determine what is true or false or right or wrong about Islam. And that's super problematic, again, from a disposition that, Islam cannot be true because it's not allowed to advocate for it. It's not supposed to advocate that it's false either, although that does seem to happen. It kind of seemed to slip in there, right? And so that's one reason why I never did. And I think that why would you want to be part of a system that, quite honestly, is going to either overtly or covertly encourage you not to believe it to be true? So that's why for myself, I never went into Islamic studies, and instead I have spent my life studying Islam in the West, right? And there's a big difference between those. Like I said, there are plenty of resources to study Islam in the West. My friend Imam Suhaib, alhamdulillah, just popped up. Like I said, there are many different, like he has Swiss Institute. There's many places you can go now and study in the West. And so we need to do away with demonizing the study of Islam in the West and make a stark difference between the study of Islam in the West and Islamic studies, aka the Western secular academic study of Islam that sets some pretty firm, if sometimes very invisible, ground rules that says, hey, look, you cannot advocate for it, right? And so to me, that's just not appealing. There's been a lot of criticism of Western academia and Orientalism, and all those things are valid. But in terms of when I was asked why I never went into Islamic studies and did a PhD like Dr. Khalil and Danny, the one I just spoke about in the video, it's just because I, as one who really believes in Islam, I don't want to study my religion from a point of view that wants to limit it and perhaps even encourage me to say, well, I can't really make a claim for it. No. If anything, I've been very interested in what we might call sort of Occidental studies, the study of secularism and its various ideologies and philosophies from antiquity right up until present day, studying those from a disposition of one who believes in Islam, so that I can actually shed a light on those things. And instead of doing a kind of deconstructionist thing on my religion, I do a deconstructionist thing on secularism. And so, Allah knows best. I don't really see myself probably ever going and doing a degree in Islamic studies here in the West, because as that one lady said, ain't nobody got time for that. So I say that and so I say all this too, be cautious. I'm not saying you can't listen to any man. I just got through saying, like, I was listening to some of the lecture by Dr. Khalil and Danny, and I especially that intro was very, very insightful. I will say though, make sure that you do not conflate a person who is trained in the Western Academy as somebody that you can take what they say to influence or govern your salvation in the hereafter. I'm going to just leave it at that. So, alhamdulillah, I got to go in here, man, and grab some milk, some butter. What else I got to get? I don't know. I should have brought a list. Anyway, y'all have a blessed, wonderful day. Inshallah, jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.